Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you how to cut and sew a stylish bustier blouse with draping. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So first, you want to go ahead to mark out all your basic measurement. So I marked my shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to waistline, and for my top length, I went ahead to add 5 inches after my waistline. You can go ahead to measure your desired top length, or you can just add 5 inches. So I'll be marking my shoulder divided by 2, which is 14 divided by 2, I have 7, and I'll come down by 1 inch. After that, I'm just going to go ahead to connect, and next I'm going to find my chest line or armhole. To do that is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So mine is 7, and what I have on the shoulder, which is 7 inches, I'll go ahead to replace it at that point. This is just to make sure that I have a straight line from my shoulder down to my chest line area, and I will go ahead to mark. So after I'm done doing this, I'll measure the distance from my bust to that chest line, which is about 1 inch. Yours might be 1 inch or more. So I'll just go ahead to connect at that point. So after I'm done connecting, I'll divide my armhole into 2, fold my tape, mark, and I will come out by ½ inch. After I'm done doing that, I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, which is 33 divided by 4. I have 8.3. Now I'll place my French cuff, connect from my chest line down to the ½ inch at the armhole and to the upper part of the shoulder. So the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to mark my bust pan divided by 2, which is your nipple to nipple divided by 2. Mine is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5. So I'll go ahead to mark that, and I'll place my curve through, and I'm going to go ahead to draw a straight line all the way to the top length. So after that, I'll place my tape from my chest line. I'll go up by 1.5 inches. So if you don't want yours to be too revealing, go ahead to use 2 inches for this pattern. Now I'll also extend and mark my nipple to nipple at this point, and I'm going to go ahead to connect it upwards. So after I'm done connecting, I'm going to be marking my dart intake. So at the under bust, I'm going to mark 1 inch at both sides. So for a plus size, you can go ahead to use 1.5 inches. So for this pattern, I'm going to be making use of a straight dart to make it easier for you to join your pattern when you're sewing it. So I'm just going to connect from the under bust down to the waistline, and from the waistline down to the top length of this top. So after I'm done doing that is to place my curve through, connect from my bust down to my under bust, and I'll also go ahead to repeat this at the other side of my pattern. So after I'm done connecting, this is what I have, and I'll just go ahead to use my marker to rule this out so that it's going to be very visible for you to see. So after you're done marking out your pattern or your dart lines, the next thing is to mark your dart intake at the upper part. So at the upper part of my pattern, I'll be marking 1 inch. So if you're a plus size, you can use 1.5 inches, or you can use 2 inches, or go ahead to calculate it. I have a video of how to do that on the channel, and I'll just go ahead to connect from the bust down to that 1 inch mark. So after I'm done doing that, I'll just go ahead to use my marker to connect. So this is what I have, and for the neckline, I don't want it to be too deep, so I'm just going to go ahead to use my chest line area, and I will connect and also blend this to my armhole. So whenever I'm drafting my pattern that probably is a tube, I don't like the armhole to be too revealing, so I went up by ½ inch. I will go ahead to connect. So after I'm done doing this, I'll just go ahead to also use my marker to outline to make it more visible for you to see. So after I'm done doing this, the next step is to insert my body measurements. At the bust, I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, which is 33 divided by 4. I have 8.3. And I'm just going to go ahead to measure this dart intake. So I'll be measuring the dart at the lower part because it's a tube and I don't want to have excess on the upper part when I'm sewing. After replacing it, I'll mark my sewing allowance of 1.5 inches. So this 1.5 inches is not a standard. At the under bust, I'll mark the under bust circumference divided by 4. My under bust circumference is 28 divided by 4. I have 7. Measure the dart intake you have, replace and add your sewing allowance. At the waistline, so you want to snatch your waist a little. So I'll be taking out 2 inches from my waist. So my waist is 28 minus 2, I have 26. So 26 divided by 4, I have 6.5 inches. I'll mark that, measure the dart intake, replace, and I'll go ahead to add the sewing allowance for this pattern. So after I'm done doing that, at the top length, I'll be marking my hip circumference. My hip is 40 divided by 4, I have 10 inches, and I'll go ahead to place and I will mark. After doing that, go ahead to replace this dart intake of 2 inches and mark, and then go ahead to add your sewing allowance, and I'll be marking 1.5 inches also. So after I'm done doing this, the next step is just to go ahead to place your curved rule to connect from the bust down to the under bust to the waistline, and also place your ruler or curved rule this way and connect to the top length. So after you're done doing this, you want to just go ahead and use your marker to outline your pattern. So the next step is to go ahead and alter the lower part of this pattern, and to do that, you're going to go ahead to blend in your darts to make this easier for you to do. Make sure that the top length is matching and the waistline is matching. So from there, I'm just going to use my freehand sketch, and I'm just going to connect to draw out. So before drawing out, I made a little rough sketch that will serve as a guide when I'm cutting out this pattern. So after cutting this pattern, if you have any issue, you can just go ahead to readjust it. So from the lower part, I'll come up by 2.5 inches, and I'll just go ahead to connect this right to my pattern this way. So this is what I have on my pattern, and after that, I'm just going to go ahead to cut this out. And also note that this pattern also has a strap in front that will connect to the back, and we'll also be cutting that while we are sewing this dress. So the next step from here is just to go ahead to cut out this pattern. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to leave your comment at the comment section. And if you have any question regarding this tutorial, go ahead and leave your question at the comment section. So for this dress, you can also go ahead to use an invisible boning method. This is just to help you snatch your waist very well. So I went ahead to retrace the lower part a bit, and this is what I have. Moving over to the back pattern, I've gone ahead to mark out my basic measurements, which includes my shoulder to chest line, bust on the bust, waist, and also my top length. So the next step I'm going to take is just to mark out my darts, just like we did for the front pattern, and I will be marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches, divided by 2, I have 3.5. I'll go ahead and mark, and I'll go ahead to draw a straight line connecting from the chest line to the bust, down to the under bust, to the waist, and to the top length. Now I'll be marking a dart intake of 1/2 inch on my pattern at the waistline, and I'll go ahead to connect. So to mark your dart, where your dart is going to stop is from your shoulder to bust plus 1 inch, and I'll just go ahead to reconnect at this part and also reconnect at the lower part of my pattern. So now the next step you're going to take is to impute your body measurement. You're going to mark your bust circumference divided by 4, and you're going to add your sewing allowance. At the under bust, mark your underbust circumference divided by 4. So this little that you have here, you're going to go ahead to replace it, and then mark your sewing allowance. At the waistline you used for the front pattern, which you snatched a little, you're going to use that. Measure the dart intake, replace it, and you're going to add your sewing allowance to it. Now at the lower part, which is your top length, you're going to mark your hip circumference divided by 4, and my hip is 40 divided by 4, I have 10. Go ahead to add your sewing allowance of 1.5 inches because the dart did not cut across that point. Now I'm going to connect all my pattern, starting from the bust to the underbust and down to the waistline, and from the waistline I'm going to go ahead to connect this down to the top length, just like we did for the front. Now after you're done doing this, we're going to go ahead to create the lacing bar area of this pattern, and I'll be using 1.5 inches. So this 1.5 is not a standard. It depends on how open you want your back to be, but I don't like my back being too open, so that's why I prefer using 1.5 inches. So after I'm done marking that 1.5 inches, I'm just going to go ahead to connect it from the upper part down to the lower part this way. So now I'll be coming down by ½ inch at the chest line. So the reason why I'm doing that is so that the lacing bar area will not pop up when you're done lacing. So I'm supposed to connect this to the other side of my chest line, and at the other side I'm supposed to come up by ½ inch, because when we were drafting the front pattern I went up by ½ inch at the armhole area. So I forgot this when I was drafting this pattern, but I'm going to add it back when I'm cutting this on the main fabric. So I'll just go ahead and outline the front part where we're going to be having our lacing bar area. And to indicate that you're going to have a lacing bar at that part of your back, I'm just going to go ahead to make a little or tiny dot on those parts indicating your lacing bar area. So after I'm done doing this, just like we came up at the front, I will go ahead and come up by that measurement by the side, and I'll just go ahead and take it all the way down to that point. So this is because most times the back pattern is actually lower than what you have at the front, but towards my lacing bar area you notice that that part is a bit lower, so I just added like few inches to that point, and then I'll just go ahead to outline the rest of my pattern. So after I'm done doing this, I'm done drafting out this pattern, and I'm going to go ahead to cut this out. So for the strap of this dress, I'll be cutting it when we are actually making this dress, and most times to get your strap is just to get the measurement from your shoulder to your chest line and times it by 2. My shoulder to chest line is 7 inches, which is your armhole. You can just do 7 times 2, you have 14, and you can just add 1 or 2 inches to it just in case, because you're going to attach it to your dress, and also so that it's going to relax very well. So this is my back pattern, and I'll go ahead to label it and I'll cut it out. So after cutting it out, you can just blend it out as one piece. So if you normally follow me, you notice that I like having one piece at my back pattern. I don't like having too much joinings there. And for this tutorial, just like I said, we'll be using an invisible boning method for the dress also. So with this, we have come to the end of today's tutorial. Please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and also join us on our sewing tutorial. Thanks.